This is now episode 2 for our podcast, Not That AA. I'm Allie.
And I'm AJ.
And today we're going to have another session of us just talking about random stuff. But specifically, we went to a vintage gaming store a couple days ago and picked up some stuff. And so we thought about a topic for today's show. And that is some vintage games that we played when we were kids. So things that we remember really fondly. And, you know, what systems and...
Not always legal, want to add.
Well, yes. Mine were always legal, but apparently my co-hosts were not always on the up and up.
Well, I mean, there's a question of legality, but it's not technically illegal, I guess. So I don't know if any of you have heard of the original SNES had a little floppy drive. They call it a game backup.
Really?
And I remember going to my uncle's house, and he would have all these floppy disks, and I was like, well, I don't see any game cartridges, so when are we supposed to play? And he'll be like, don't worry about it, and he'll pull out like a big stack of floppy disks. So I played things from like Super Mario World to like, you know, Dragon Ball Z, back when it was cool, you know, to play Dragon Ball Z on a console. But yeah, I think that was my first video game memory. What about you?
Mine was much further back, probably. When I was really little, my parents had an Intellivision set, like an Intellivision console. And now I have learned that it is the Intellivision 2. Mm-hmm. And we only had 2 games for it. We had Burger Time and Pitfall.
Those are both classics,
They
right?
are super classics, yes. I think you can still buy them. I don't know if they make them anymore, but I know for like PS2 and DS, so kind of, you know, recent yet not super current consoles and platforms, they had those like Namco museums and sort of like a collective of old games. You usually can find Pitfall, but I think my brother found a collection for his PS3, I believe, that had Burger Time in it. And so this is like old school. And I remember my my uncle and my aunt coming to play with us a lot.
I think that's a recent thing where there's like a resurgence of really looking at retro games. Like a lot of the indie games you see nowadays, like Shovel Knight, they're like big throwbacks to, you know, the old days where they have like 8-bit graphics and 8-bit sound.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think it's the nostalgia factor. I think Intellivision, those things were like indestructible, weren't they?
Yes. I heard that they could withstand anything. And the guy at the shop told me that he thinks that if my family went to the backyard shed and pulled it out and dusted it off, that it might still work because they were really long lasting. And I thought that was amazing. So I'm hoping maybe sometime I'll be able to convince them to go look for it. Maybe I'll go look with my brother. I don't know. But that would be something cool to do, especially since now I know where to get games for it.
Unfortunately, the same thing can't be said about the current gen consoles. Like if you put it in the garage, I'm willing to bet if you pull it out a couple years later, it'll stop working altogether.
The exception to that has been my PS2. Mm-hmm. It was sitting for a long time because I have a white PS2, and I got it as part of a special SingStar pack. Mm-hmm. Because I threw a party and my friends came over and we were doing karaoke. And I've had it for years, but in all honesty, I haven't used it that much. But I mean, I picked up a couple games recently, so maybe that'll change. And
I had a friend that had a PS2. So like the original thing was the PS2 is supposed to be an all-encompassing device.
Yeah.
So that you can play DVDs and listen to music CDs on it. And the thing was, apparently the original PS2, if you watch DVDs on it all the time, the optic drive burns out.
I did hear about that, yes.
Yeah, but I think they eventually fixed that, so that wasn't a problem anymore.
I think with the original release, that might have been an issue, but I think the slimline ones, like the ones I have, that's probably not as much of an issue, but I still don't really use it to watch DVDs because I don't want to run the risk of destroying it. Especially, you know, you can't really buy it anymore, so...
I think they just discontinued it a few years ago, right?
I'm not sure. Did they?
They were making
I thought-
PS2s forever.
I thought they discontinued it a long time ago.
The PS3 sold so poorly, they kept making the PS2, and it was still the top selling PlayStation for a long time.
You know what? I really like our PS3 and my brother's PS3, and my mom has one too, of course. And I like the style of ours because remember one time we went to the Sony store and it had that really weird rubbery slider
The
on
really
it.
cheap, like corrugated.
Yes.
board, yeah.
I forgot what it's called. Sorry if I'm totally butchering it, what it's supposed to be. I'm sorry, listeners. But if you've seen a more recent version of the PS3, they have this kind of plasticky, corrugated cardboard looking slider thing that's just really cheap looking.
And that's not even the worst of it. I think now it's flash storage and only has 12 gigabyte of memory. So, like, if you want to download downloadable games, well, good luck with that. You won't fit anything on there. Especially those of you that have PS Plus. It'll fill up real fast. So, I think the original memory I have actually playing video games was before consoles was even popular. Have you been to an arcade before?
Yeah.
So
Who hasn't?
So, like, I remember playing, like, Mrs. Pac-Man, and, like, I remember back in the day when you went to the video game arcade, and that was the top of the line, and the graphics were so amazing. You're like, I wish I could have this at my home.
I think once, maybe when we get a place that's bigger, because right now we live in a tiny-ass apartment in the city, I think once we can get someplace larger, then I definitely would want to get some sort of arcade game, whether it's Pac-Man or, you know what I really wanted was one of those Jurassic Park games.
The one with the little Jeep,
The
yeah.
little Jeep, yes.
And, of course, the Star Wars one was always a classic for those of you that are into the original trilogy. And, by the way, the new Star Wars movie's coming out this week for those of you that have tickets.
You're lucky. We
Yeah,
couldn't get tickets.
We couldn't
Damn
get
it.
tickets.
But okay, also going back to vintage gaming, in terms of computer gaming, my computer lab when I was in elementary school, we also had a bunch of Mac classics, and so we played games on those as well. And so our favorite was Shuffle Puck Cafe. My mom was a teacher, elementary school teacher, and so she had the Oregon Trail. She had every version of the Oregon Trail. So you have the old one, which is like all green, and that's the classic one. And there's a lot of places online where you can still play it. It's kind of finicky sometimes with Macs, but it's pretty easy to get it going on a PC. But she also had the modern updates of them. So we had a modified Oregon Trail, and then there was a sequel called the Yukon Trail, and then there was another one called the Amazon Trail. And so those were actually really cool games. And of course, I learned geography from Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego.
That's kind of ironic, though, don't you think? Considering you said that it runs better on PCs, but the original Oregon Trails were on like Apple IIs.
Yeah.
And I remember that was like the only reason I liked the computer lab back in elementary school. And coincidentally, the Apple IIs would always die on us. And you'd be playing in the middle, and then you see the Mac with a little dead face on it, and you're like,
no.
So it was either you died of dysentery or died of your Mac crashing.
I liked it when people died of snake bite.
Snake bite? I don't think that's ever happened to me before.
You've never seen the snake bite?
No.
Oh, yes. People have there's the snake bite. You can eat poison fruit, drink poison water. Also, the one that I saw pop up a lot was typhoid.
That was pretty common.
Yeah.
But I think I always really killed my party by being too foolhardy, and then I'll like ferry across every time. And then like I'll tip over and like half my party would drown.
You mean Ford?
Yeah, Ford. Yeah, that's right. And then like half my party would like get sick after that and die off. Whenever there was a ferry, I took the ferry. And because I guess I was being a giant wuss or something. But when there was a ferry, we took the ferry. And then towards the end, when you get closer to Oregon and Washington, you can pay I think it's a Shoshone guide to take your boat across.
But I remember a couple times I almost never forded the river, but I would try to cock the wagon and float it across. And so you would sit there and wait with bated breath, like while the little wagon floats into the river, and then like you think you're gonna make it, and then at the last moment it tips over and you see all your crap floating up to the surface, and you're like, God damn it.
It's never worked for me.
It's worked for me a couple times. Like, it fails more often than it works, but I've done it before.
And I think there's like a new take on it. They call it the Oregon Trail, Organ. And it's like an adaptation of Oregon Trail, and instead of dying from dysentery, you can die from zombie bites.
Oh,
and
God.
You're running away from zombies.
There's like fucking zombies everywhere. I swear. But I mean, maybe, okay, if it's with a game as good as the Oregon Trail, maybe I would be able to tolerate the zombie element.
It's not so bad if you try it.
I just think it's so played out.
It's just a flash
tired. Oh, do you remember on Sega Genesis, Moonwalker by Michael Jackson?
I've heard of it, but I've never played it.
Okay. I can't believe I didn't think of this before. That the Sears that was near my parents' house, they had near the children's fitting rooms a Sega Genesis that had a Moonwalker on it. And whenever we went shopping for clothes, like school clothes or, clothes for a special occasion, my brother and I would always go and play it. And it was so funny because we'd play it through. And one of the special moves is he throws his hat, and whoever it hits gets set on fire. But we liked to aim for the little girl that you're supposed to help. So we would throw the hat and set the little girl on fire, and it's
That's
like game
hilarious.
over. And then his major attack is a dance move. He'll stand on a pool table and he'll start dancing, and all the criminals start dancing with him. It's really funny.
That sounds awfully familiar. Was that a popular game?
Yeah. It was,
I
definitely.
played the Genesis growing up, but I don't think I ever remember playing that. For me, Genesis was always about Sonic.
Oh, that's
I
true.
played the original one, Sonic 2 and Sonic 3, and the thing is, it's kind of upsetting because you hear all these game critics talk about it, and they're like, Sonic is the worst game ever. And I'm like, really? I grew up playing that game over and over. And it was like the game I went to play with my cousin.
There was actually a game that PlayStation made that I think was supposed to be maybe their version of Sonic, and it was Klonoa. Have you heard of Klonoa?
No, I can't say I have.
He looked kind of like Sonic, and I could be remembering this all wrong, but the way the levels played, it was very similar to Sonic. And there was this one level that my mom used to play over and over again because she liked the little music in it, because it was this really weird Japanese music. And I don't know, that's just weird. Now, for those of you who are listening, interesting piece of information, I guess, about my family is that my mom is actually a huge gamer. And I call my mom Queen of the Geeks because she's really into Star Trek. She watches, the Sci-Fi Channel. She has she really loves Stargate, SG-1. I don't think she was really into the other spin-off series, but she has her own PS4 in her bedroom. So while my dad is in one room watching TV, she'll be playing video games. And she's pretty good. Sometimes she's better than my brother, especially at finding stuff.
She's like the opposite of like what I experienced in childhood. Like, I wonder how many people would love to have their mom be into games too. But then I guess you run into a different problem where like you're fighting for the video game console as opposed to, like your mom telling you can't play.
Yeah, and that's definitely something. Well, after I moved out, because I moved out ages ago, and my little brother was still living there, and he and my mom would fight over the console. And so they just ended up buying her own.
That was a solution, right?
Yeah. Well, I guess they had money to burn. It'd be nice if they gave some to me so I wouldn't be living off of ramen and Kool-Aid, but, just a little resentment there. But
just a tiny bit.
But yeah, they have their own separate systems. I think it started with the PS3, and then now it's PS4. So my brother has his own PS4, and my mom has her own PS4. So they're really big into the Batman games, which I can totally understand because the Batman games are amazing. And yeah.
Although this last one was kind of dividing. Some people loved it, and some people absolutely hated it.
I hated the fact that the Batmobile was crucial for everything. Like, you could go to a mission, okay, and you use the grapple hook to fly through Gotham like in the previous games, and then when you get there, there's some dumbass hook or something that needs to be pulled out of the wall, and you have to have the Batmobile to do it. That really annoyed me.
I think it's not so much the Batmobile. I mean, the Batmobile was annoying, yes, but driving around in the Batmobile wasn't so bad. I think it's really the part where everywhere you go, there's like these stupid tanks that pop up, and you have to go into like tank battle mode, and it's like, this doesn't even feel like a Batman game anymore.
Okay, well, we're kind of deviating from our topic now. We're going back.
All right, going back
to vintage gaming.
Vintage gaming.
What else? Would you consider, I mean, speaking of arcade games, I mean, some of my friends had like pinball machines and everything. And I have a scar on my wrist actually because I went to my friend's house for her birthday party and she had a pinball machine. And then one of my friends got completely addicted to it and it was time to go in and cut the cake and she wouldn't stop. So I went to pull the plug and she shoved me into the wall of the garage, which was old and rickety and wood, and I sliced my wrist open.
That's terrible.
So, yeah, I still have the scar. I think he can see it right there.
Send him a bill.
I should send her a bill, right?
Go get like the most primo plastic surgeons, like collagen? Sure, why not? Send it to so-and-so.
Skin grafts. They have to take skin from my ass to mend my wrist.
So I think some people consider pinball machines to be video games, but I think there's a whole separate group of people that are just pinball enthusiasts.
Yeah. I think it's kind of like the same thing too with video poker and video slots. Some people consider them to be, video games, and others are like, no, it's its own separate genre. It's slots. It's poker.
That's funny you bring that up because I've visited some family in other countries before, and I remember back in the day, gambling was illegal in many places. The euphemism for gambling hall was video game hall. So they would have these video game halls with just video poker where you can gamble and play video slot machines.
Huh, that's pretty cool.
So back in the day, I would walk in and be like, oh, I want to go there. My parents is like, no, you really don't. And walk in and be like, you smell like this thick cloud of cigarette smoke and like chewing tobacco. You're like, that's not Nintendo.
That's not an arcade.
Yeah, that's not an arcade. But I think video game has really evolved to be something more of a cultural phenomenon. Because I remember back in the day, going to the arcade was kind of like something that like only like the really dedicated and kind of like, I guess, the nerdy kids went and
Yeah.
Like nowadays, it's widely accepted. You see commercials on it all the time. And the side effect of that is, I think, unfortunately, there aren't that many arcades existing anymore.
I know. I've seen several go out of business lately.
Like, we went to a local mall probably a year or so ago. Yeah, we don't go to the mall very often.
Yeah.
And they had a really cool arcade there with, like, Virtual Fighter. They had, like, Time Splitters and stuff like that. And it's sad because you see all these, like, arcade machines on sale because I guess no one really just plays them anymore.
I guess not,
You can play them at home, even like House of the Dead back in the day when we played House of the Dead. I don't know if you've seen that game before.
I think I have, yes.
Yeah, it's a really cool zombie game from Sega. And back in the day, the arcade was the only place you could play it, But now you can just go on PlayStation Network or Xbox Live and download it. And it kind of takes away from the social aspect of it.
I think what you're starting to see more since, like you said, there's this kind of disappearance of the arcade as us and previous generations remember it. There's also, because of, the consoles and the versatility of PC gaming and everything, all that stuff is kind of moving towards the house. And so you're starting to see, at least I've been seeing more often, those vintage arcade games going into private homes now. Because they're the ones who buy them up because they remember, oh, yeah, I used to play this when I was a kid and stuff like that. And it's really a cool piece, to add to your collection. It's a different experience than what you would get, just sitting on the couch, playing Call of Duty or something like that.
And now it's kind of like a collector's item almost, like you said.
Status symbol.
Yeah. Like the nice, rich home with a little tucked game room in the back with Miss Pac-Man that's just running.
Well, yeah, that's what my boss's place is like.
Yeah,
that's her crown jewel, is her arcade.
So I think the whole thing about this topic is it brings back a lot of nostalgia for me. Like, I feel like video games back in the day was all about being social, right? You went to the local arcade. I think there's still Boomers around, for those of you that are from California. And family fun centers and like just little like hole in the wall arcades.
And plus nationwide there's Dave and Buster's as well. Yeah.
And but people don't really go there to play arcades.
They go to drink and play arcades.
And then win those like overpriced like Barbie dolls or whatever the heck they give nowadays.
I want a Cartman.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I want a Cartman plushie and it was amazing.
It's like the greatest marketing ploy, right? You make people spend all this money to get tickets, and then you realize you won something, and you're like, oh my god, I'm so excited. I won a $20 plushie. It's like, but I spent like $80 to get the tickets for it. But anyway, so the greatest thing about arcades was you went, you didn't know anyone there, right? And you just put your quarter on the arcade cabinet, and you kind of strike conversation with the people that are waiting in line with you, and then you just you meet friends that way.
Yeah.
And you start meeting up like during certain periods of time. Say you meet up Monday or Wednesday or Fridays, and then you eventually build this long-term friendship. But nowadays, with everything coming to the home, you're isolated. Like, you don't really see the other person. And I feel like the gaming community as a whole can be a little bit more toxic now because people feel like they can say things that they normally wouldn't say because of the anonymity.
Anonymity, yeah.
So, I mean, I guess it's just my age showing because I really miss that aspect of, the social aspect of games. And for the longest time, co-op games is a thing, right? You would invite friends over and you play games on the couch together. But even that's starting to go away, with the Call of Duties tragic. And everything. Everything is like you play on your own and you play with someone else online.
Yes. Which sucks because then you're dependent on how good of a connection you have and, how many people are on the server and stuff like that. I mean, I tried playing Grand Theft Auto several times online and I just kept getting kicked off, like in the middle of a mission or in the middle of something else. And then you have to start over, or if you freeze, like some douchebag comes and kills you. I mean, sometimes it's more hassle than what it's worth. Yeah,
I mean, it's that, and it's the fact that you can't put a face to it anymore. Like, it really takes away that human element,
It's all a bunch of racist 7-year-olds.
Yeah, for all I know, it could be a robot on the other side, like talking to you. You wouldn't even know the difference.
Excuse me. So, another thing that I enjoyed about arcades too was, in addition to meeting new friends and stuff, it was a good place to meet up with your extended family. I mean, my family is bigger than yours, and so we had, cousins and aunts and uncles and stuff like that who would come together. And, I just kind of maybe get a little nostalgic about it, around the holidays, which leads us to our end topic to close this podcast. And since we are at the holiday season, we are going to discuss our favorite holiday foods, and we would love to hear your favorite holiday foods as well. So, AJ, what is your favorite holiday food?
So before I get to that, for those of you that are celebrating Hanukkah,
Happy Hanukkah.
I believe today's the last day. The podcast will go up somewhere around Monday night. Hope you had a good one. So, speaking of Hanukkah, I think my favorite holiday food is latkes. I'm not like Jewish in faith, but ever since I've been introduced to latkes, I've just fallen in love with it. Even if I don't celebrate Hanukkah, I have to have latkes around this time. It's like my two favorite things to have at a Burger Shack. I love onion rings and I love fried potatoes. And it's like putting those two things together in one delicious pancake. And it has to be eaten fresh.
Yes.
And oh god, I could put away like 2 or 3 plates of those things. They're my favorite. And not the store-bought stuff either. The store-bought stuff that you
It's
the powder,
it's not very good.
That stuff's gross. You got to make it yourself.
Although the matzo ball soup that they sell in the store is pretty good. Is it the Manischewitz? No, it's not Manischewitz.
It's the Manischewitz.
Is it?
Yeah, but I don't know how I feel about like packaged, wet wheat ball soup, in the grocery store.
You make it sound so gross. It's delicious. So for those of you who are listening, okay, I'm the one who introduced him to latkes because my family is part Jewish. So we sometimes celebrate Hanukkah, but usually Christmas. And my mom makes amazing latkes, and so I learned how to make them from her. And so I passed them down here and made them for AJ, and they're delicious. And there is never a bad time for latkes. They're amazing with everything. Let's see. But I'm gonna have to say too, my favorite holiday food is also a very cultural thing, and that's tamales. My family doesn't do it very often, but they used to make tamales. And they had, beef, pork, the sweet tamales with raisins. I know I usually hate raisins, but in tamale form, they're pretty good. But
I've never had the sweet ones.
You've never had the sweet ones?
No, it's all about the pork, man.
I know, it's like how we're breaking the kosher dietary law here. It's having a pork tamale with, a plate of latkes. That is the beauty of America, everyone. Multiculturalism.
Tamale wrapped around the latke.
Yes.
That's the way to go.
Oh, that's tasty. I'm going to try that now.
But yeah, I don't know. Sweet tamale? That's kind of like...
Some people, I was reading, I think... BuzzFeed recently had an article, and someone got really mad about the idea of sweet tamales with pineapple and raisins, and they're like, oh my god, it's like blasphemy. And I was like, well, it's actually pretty traditional because, my family makes it and other families make it, so it's not like it's something completely foreign. And you would think, the first time I had heard about it when I was little, I thought it sounded really weird, and I think my mom learned how to make them from her aunt. Mm-hmm. But when we finally made it and had it, they're really good. They're not crazy sweet. Mm-hmm. They're just sweet enough.
I mean, that makes sense. The Chinese traditionally have, barbecue pork buns. Mm-hmm. And most people associate it with being a savory dish. Mm-hmm. But in reality, most Asians have a sweet version of it where they put, red bean paste or...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's actually, more traditional, too. But yeah, I can see that. It's just weird, because, I don't know, usually put, some kind of green or red sauce on it.
Christmassy!
Yeah, and then, could you imagine, enchilada red sauce over, pineapple tamales? That just sounds weird.
You're not supposed to put sauce like that over sweet tamales.
That's just the association.
You're weird. But... anyways, so that will do it for us today for the second episode. Thank you for listening. And again, feel free to let us know if you have any topics that you would like us to cover in the future. And hopefully we'll have one more podcast before Christmas. I'm not totally sure yet.
We will try our best to get one out before the holidays. And as Ali mentioned, if you have any suggestions, tweet at us at GameOverTherapy, and feel free to suggest any topic at all, and we'll be happy to put them on the show. Appropriate topics, of course.
Taking the fun out of it.
Well, appropriate is a wide term, so
that's true.
That can include anything. But, we'll see you hopefully in the next week or so, and happy holidays.
Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah.
Happy Kwanzaa.
And Festivus.
When that comes up, yeah. I think it's the 26th this year is when Kwanzaa starts.
Kwanzaa starts?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So thank you for listening, and we hope to see you again soon.
Bye.
Bye.